Welcome back to SwitchCorner. Today we're going to be taking a look at the final game of the recent partner showcase from Nintendo. This one's taken a little while, it's absolutely kicked my ass, but hey it is. We've covered the long dark though, we battled through Ori, but have we saved the best till last? Well, hit subscribe if you love the Switch as much as we all do here, join our growing family, and let's get started. So hey it is, and on the story front I didn't expect too much going in, and while I wouldn't say it's going to win, any awards or anything down to its rating, it did still deliver more than I expected. The story at its starting point, simple stuff. You are the son of the devil and you've grown tired of basically your existence in hell, and now you're looking to escape. As you'll progress though, you'll come across a ton of different characters, or gods to be specific, to kind of interact with, who are willing to aid you in your escape, particularly the Olympians, in fact so Zeus and all his buddies. They have your back, and could you really ask for a better team? Where the game really excels though is the consistent references to your progression, whether that's a previously, beaten boss on the last run referencing, getting their asses handed to them, or a moment where characters will simply be wandering around the hub world. The Devil's home base, in fact, is where a few of the characters will give you tips while also providing flashbacks to your personal history, and this is kind of always your home base, always the starting point. Now, as I say, not the deepest stuff, but I really enjoyed the characterizations here. The world was great, and then the slow drip feeding of information, it really suited the gameplay well to provide, some feeling of progression to the whole experience, and that's really important when you're dying over and over again. So gameplay wise, this is a roguelike dungeon crawler. Basically take the Dead Cells formula, throw in an isometric viewpoint and an even more hellish like landscape, and voila, I present you Hades. Now if the Dark Souls reference didn't give you this bit of information and everything I've said so far, this is brutally difficult. Yes, it has a god mode which may help along, newcomers, but I tested that out too and it's still handing my ass to me frequently. Death will visit you often and pretty much on repeat, but thankfully the gameplay is solid, making every run at your escape an absolute joy to experience. The idea is like any roguelike though, simple enough, jump in and try to progress further each and every time. Here though, the dungeon formula really does make for something unique, however, as you essentially get almost an arena based formula to your progression. So yeah, you enter a room, you destroy your enemies, you gain a new power or some sort of new item from each room after it's cleared. You might face a boss moment every so often, and then you'll move to that next subsection or location. You're essentially climbing this big old staircase to escape, but it provides for some nice variety in the enemies and locations you will face. Perhaps Hades' biggest strength though, the power-ups and different weapons. To start each run, you'll enter like a room where the exit is based. It's your bedroom. Here though, you can select your weapon of choice before you begin, and there's even a skeleton here who talks and walks, but you're also able just to kind of kick the crap out of him, just to kind of take out any leftover anger or just test out these new kind of skills. Here though, weapon wise, expect swords, shields like a Captain America style that you can fling all over the place. Wolverine claws, a particular favourite of mine, a bow and arrow. Typically when it comes to a game like this, I'm pretty traditional with my weapon choice, going for the sword 90% of the time, but I will say with this one, experimentation was key. Through each room then you'll frequently get the choice of more than one pathway, so typically you'll enter a location, you'll kick the crap out of all the different enemies, and then you'll have to choose. These are decorated on the door with a symbol. Learning the meaning behind these different symbols will be key to your success, as they will dictate what reward you will gain from that next room. Think everything from like extra life to the support of gods with like specials, like I said, Zeus going in with like lightning bolts, stronger attacks. Maybe you'll be able to regain health with each attack. There's even a throw mechanic with spears. There's a ton of them, and each run isn't only a chance to experiment with these, but figure out that optimal combination. What will very much begin as kind of potluck as you make your choices quickly turns into a strategic moment for the game that is very much built around your current skill set. Die then, and that will happen a whole lot. As I say, you will be thrown back to the hub world. Here though, you not only get to progress the story, but also assign permanent upgrades thanks to some sort of like mystical mirror that's situated squarely in your bedroom. Here you'll spend one of the many in-game currencies that you will earn on each run. Likewise then, unlocking weapons works this way too, but you'll use keys that you collect each time. That's really all there is to gameplay as you master your abilities of, dodging, attacking, and then using specials. My favourite being that dodge, the dash. It's basically very similar to Enter the Gungeon, meaning it stops enemy attacks just for a split second from hurting you, but you can actually dodge over gaps in the world as well. There's a lot of holes in the floor that you'll be able to dive straight over. To wrap up gameplay then, we do get boss encounters, and the variety is solid, each having, very specific patterns that you'll need to learn to overcome. All the enemies in fact are very unique, and I constantly found myself coming up against completely new foes even when I was, deep into gameplay, with just like more than a few deaths under my belt. Expect everything here from masters of melee to, of course, like range attacks, to those that are gonna explode on sight, to even a few that take influence from the bullet hell genre. For me, this game, thanks to this, felt almost like Dead Cells met kind of Fury, and that is a very, very good place to be. Problems, gonna say only one, the occasional bit of slowdown. I did notice when you were being, overwhelmed by different types of enemies, or maybe there was a lot on screen, there's for sure some minor frame rate drops. Not a huge problem, but I will say timing there's not perfect, and I would have loved to have seen a locked frame rate with this one, because there's nothing worse than getting hit during a frame rate drop and knowing that really wasn't kind of my fault. As I say, not frequent, I'll even go as far as to say rare, but when it did happen, I couldn't help but be, a tiny bit disappointed when everything else here was just so polished. So graphically speaking, this one, it comes from Supergiant Games, and it continues their trend of games that just look absolutely incredible. Having created Bastion previously and Transistor, two masterpiece examples of game creation, this takes obviously what they knew from those ones, what they learned from those, and continues to build upon it here with a hand-painted style, and I feel like they just are absolutely known for this now. The world is cartoony for sure, but the level of detail they capture still, no question, incredible. And this distinct style for sure plays well into the theme, where they can create, nightmarish imagery, but still give it a ton of colour and variety that may have been unexpected. Likewise, enemy design and animation in general is great as well. I mean, it's very little I can complain about in graphics, but the moves are very clear, they're easy enough to understand what they're about to, do, without them ever feeling simplistic, and that's important in a game like this. It's almost like caricatures at times of what hellish demons could be, but they still manage to land that fibre. These are not foes you would want to face. Very few complaints to say visually, except for one thing: each time you defeat the final enemy in a room, the game has this stylized slowdown to reflect this. It just didn't quite land for me personally. With how fast paced the game was, it just didn't feel right, almost like there was a problem occurring. I know that's not the case though, but there was also this blood flow effect, and it's completely pixelated, and it just didn't fit well for me with the rest of the style. That said, it's a cosmetic choice, it's a design choice. Will not go against the score today, but it just didn't really work for me. That though, honestly, everything else in the graphics, absolutely stunning. Audio then, I'm really impressed here. The attacks sound heavy and the music works into the environments from mystical to epic, and especially those boss moments, they are an absolute highlight as they approach almost like a metal vibe. It for sure builds upon the intensity. The most impressive part for me though, all of the voice acting. While there's no real standouts in the voice acting, there's a level of quality across the board that just does a nice job of capturing the godlike status of these characters, especially Zeus, who is as deep as you would expect, but there's a ton of reverb being added there. For me, this is what I like to see. Story is for sure the smallest element of the experience, but they still gave it more than enough attention to match the high level of the rest of the package. And sometimes we can see, developers be a little bit lazy in certain areas, and that is very much not the case here. So overall, Hades, I'm impressed. It's honestly been a great week and a great direct, in particular The Long Dark, Ori, and now this. While I don't think it's trying anything particularly new, it is, a typical Supergiant experience. But you know what, like any Supergiant game, they're like, oh, you think that's good? Let me show you how Supergiant do it. And they just add their stamp of quality to it all. Supergiant just know how to deliver in so many areas. The simplistic starting story that they managed to flesh out. The gameplay that's about as tight and fast paced as it comes. Creativity in the power-ups and permanent upgrades. Or even then simply that extra care that goes into rounding out the package. The only letdown with this one, those moments of slowdown that often happen when you are in the absolute thick of battle, and that can be problematic for a game where your life bar is such a valuable and precious thing. Fortunately though, as I say, these moments, they are few and far between, and for me, they can't detract from what is easily one of the best roguelikes on the Switch. I will say though, not quite Dead Cells level, but very, very close. Today I'm going to be giving Hades an amazing 9 out of 10. This is an incredibly challenging and deep game that absolutely will demand the very best from you to progress, but dying on repeat rarely felt so good. With that then, like a shout out to the patrons of the channel who are just going above and beyond to support SwitchCorner. Helps more than you know, and it truly is appreciated, so thank you all so much. If you want to check that out for yourself, it is linked in the video description down below. Then hit subscribe if you love the Switch as much as we all do here. Join our growing family, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.